Program is sponsored by Dave Stahl. It's time to get educated on your Second Amendment rights. Welcome to 2 full hours of Gun Owners Radio. Your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz, will teach you about firearms, self-defense, and the laws that affect your rights to keep and bear arms. Visit gunownersradio.com with questions to learn how to become a sponsor of Gun Owners Radio and get involved. Together, we will win. Now here's your hosts, Dave Stahl, Joe Germisi, and Michael Schwartz on The Answer San Diego.
All right, folks, welcome to Gun Owners Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170.
The Answer.
Well, we don't have Michael Schwartz. Where did he go? Is he on vacation?
He's cruising Nevada with his dad.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he told the story on Facebook. That was cute. Hey, criminals don't follow any high-capacity magazine limits. Criminals aren't restricted to the guns in the California gun roster. They also don't follow a 10-day waiting period, so why should you? Gun control laws just make it harder for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. What can you do about it? Well, join a Second Amendment activist group like the San Diego County Gun Owners. SDCGO makes activism easy. Working together, we're getting more pro-gun officials elected. Join today at San Diego County Gun Owners.com. Go to San Diego County Gun Owners.com and join today. Well, topics today will be gun prom, voter guide, Gun Owners Radio is on True Social. I can't get on True Social. They said click here to get a code.
Yeah, to be on a waiting list, right?
Well, I guess that's what it is because it won't send me an email.
Yeah, I got on that waiting list a long time ago.
Episode previews, Steve Vargas. Gear review, Steve Dettelbach and Stephen Halbrook.
So if you read all that, what are you going to say?
I don't know. You're the ones that are going to be talking about all this stuff.
Well, I've been talking about that stuff. You didn't say anything about me when I wasn't here last week, right?
You weren't even here.
There wasn't Joe's driving around the country with his dad or something.
I didn't know where you were either. Where did you go?
I was taking we took
Sure, easy for you to say.
Took a pepper spray instructor class. So there was one of the national trainers, Chuck Haggard, was in town. So David Reed sponsored it up at the Lemon Grove Rod and Gun Club. So took that one.
Were you the target or were you the shooter?
No, it was fun. I thought about that, but we didn't have the opportunity. It's hard to do that in a civilian class because of the insurance issues. They spray each other all the time in the law enforcement classes.
Right. That's why I was wondering if you'd been sprayed.
No, I would have. I thought about it. I'm getting too old to be sprayed by that crap. But since I'm teaching these classes, I should probably, if somebody says, hey, have you been sprayed? I should be able to say something more recent than, in boot camp.
Yeah, well, that's when I got sprayed, and it was tear gas. It wasn't pepper
we did the
spray.
same thing you guys were talking about 2 weeks ago. It's because they made us sit in this room. We had gas masks on.
Take your gas mask off.
Yeah, and then we had to recite
run around inside the tent.
Yeah, and then we went outside and everybody coughed and choked.
Then he said, "Go back in." I said, "No." They go, "Yes." I said, "No," and I didn't go back in. So be that as it may. So, are you ready for gun prom?
Yeah, I just actually got my table, paid for my table, got my 10 people, so I'm ready to go.
I got my 10 people. I have not paid for the table. And, that's kind of the way I'm rolling.
Well, that was easy. I did it online, but I know Bill had trouble with it because I had to hand carry a check to Michael the other day. We were supposed to make the exchange here, but between me remembering to give it to Rich and Rich remembering to ask, we figured we had about a 50-50 chance of success here.
Yeah, so I've got my people all lined up, so that'll be good. And I was talking to a couple of politicians today that were at KUSI, and I told them that they need to go to sdcgo.org and buy some prom tickets. And he says, a gun prom? I go, yeah, dude, it's cool. So we'll see if they show up.
Yeah, so doing pretty well, so that should be good. A couple of guests today that should be good as well. Steve Vargas is running for supervisor up in Orange County. Mm-hmm. So he's got a
Isn't he from down here?
Background. No, I think he was. He's a city councilman from Brea, and then the mayor up there.
Wow, the name sounds so familiar.
He may be from down here originally. I don't know. We'll find out. Ask him today.
Yeah.
Then who's the other guy? Steve
Dettelbach?
Halbrook. No, Dettelbach is another one we'll talk about. Stephen Halbrook will be on the show today, or he'll be calling in. And he's an author and an attorney, and he's done, I think, about 10 books. I know I read 2 of them. One of them I really liked. Well, I like both of them, but apparently one of them I was raving about, and I couldn't. I forgot all about it. And Michael reminded me the other day when I saw him, and I can't find it. And it's like I never get rid of those. Certain books I keep, and because I just read so many.
I keep all of mine.
Yeah, the Founders' Second Amendment was the one. I know I would have kept that, so I must have lent it to somebody.
Okay, you want to know a trick? Get labels, and put your name, address, and phone number on the label, and then stick it inside the leaf of the book, and date it.
Yeah, and it'll be lost wherever it is.
No,
with the label
no, because whoever you loan it to will see that, and when they get done reading it, if they're any kind of a friend, they'll send it back.
Ah.
Because otherwise, who you loan it to will have the same memory issue you have, and they'll forget who loaned it to them. And I've got another book you need to put on your list to read, and it's called Tyrus.
Tyrus.
You ever watch Gutfeld show on Saturday night?
I never watched Gutfeld.
Okay, well, there's a big, huge wrestler, about 370 pounds and 6'9", and his name's Tyrus, and he's kind of a co-host on the show. I read it in a day. It was that good. It was that good.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah. I'll loan it to you when I get it back. I've got it loaned out to.
Is your name on the inside of the cover?
It sure is, and
all right.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a good book to read. What do you mean you don't watch Gutfeld? He's funny.
Yeah, that's what my mom says. My mom says he's funny.
She likes him?
Must be an age thing. Yeah, she likes him.
What do you mean it's an age thing? What is this age thing? You take one day off and get squirted, and now all of a sudden it's an age thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes perfectly good sense.
So yeah, I got a lot of stuff to talk about there.
So did you guys? How many different pepper sprays? Are you going to talk about this later?
No, I'm not going to talk about it later.
So
I'm talking about
what kind of? Because everybody says palm is the way to go.
Yeah, the
P-O-M?
thing about palm and saber is the other one that you see out there. The thing that we found out about pepper spray that I didn't realize is it's not really highly regulated. It's interesting. Bear spray is more regulated because of the animal aspect and the EPA and all that.
Really?
Yeah. People pepper spray is not really that tightly regulated, and there is a wide variety in the potency of the peppers that they use to extract the oil that they use in pepper spray, and so there's a big difference there. In things, and the only two, palm and saber, are the only two that test regularly to ensure the potency of the stuff that they're using to create their sprays.
Okay.
But I mean, people rate them differently. You'll see these Scoville heat units.
Right.
Well, it's that Scoville heat units are a very arbitrary thing. They're a taste-related thing. Something that's really super hot to somebody is not really super hot to somebody else.
Like me, ketchup is super hot.
Yeah, so just kind of ketchup you use.
Hunts.
So yeah, there's a lot of differences there, but they say generally speaking, palm and saber is good. The palm, what's nice about palm is they're smaller, and you're more likely to carry it. They're easier to carry. Saber's a little bit bigger, but yeah, it was a good class. So we're going to do that. I'm teaching a group of realtors here. I'm doing a situational awareness and pepper spray class on the 1st for a group of realtors in Santee. So I'll be able to use that information a little bit.
Cool. Well, because I mean, I think it's a good backup device, for people that, are looking for some form of protection.
Well, it's good for concealed carriers. Most problems are not gun problems. So unless you've taken the time to train and you've got empty-handed skills, or you're young enough to still be able to run or something like that, it's nice to have some other alternative. And the pepper spray is a good alternative. It'll give you some time, maybe to do something else or to get away. Really, is what it's for.
Well, yeah, exactly. But but to me, I think that's another product that you need to practice with.
Yeah.
Like a gun. I mean, if you don't, because, if you're panicking, you're squirting and it's going every which way.
Yeah, that's true. Fortunately, it doesn't take long to develop that skill. So, I think you get that spray down in
got it down to a science
class or two.
I'll have to try that out.
So Steve Vargas is running for Orange County Supervisor. Why should gun owners support him? Let's find out next.
But first, if you have legal matters that involve firearms, then you need to call California firearms lawyer John Dillon. If you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant, call our trusted firearms attorney, John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Call 760-642-7150, or you can visit his website at DillonLawGP.com. So, you're going to take care of the Mr. Vargas interview?
If he's here, is Mr. Vargas here?
I am.
Steve, you are. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Thank you very much for allowing me to participate.
Oh, it's good to have you here. So, for the audience, I guess, for the listeners, who is Steve Vargas? I already told him, but tell him some more, Steve. Who are you? What's your background?
Well, first of all, I just so happen to be up in Washington State right now, not in my district, running for supervisor. I'm actually got called to active duty in the military, so I'm still in the reserves, and I'm up here doing beach surveys with DISCA, which is the Defense Support for Civil Authorities. So we actually we've already knocked out 8 beaches. We got about 6 more beaches to go, and also doing the Quinault Indian reservations up here.
Wow, you're a busy guy.
It's
So
bad timing. But,
I was going to say, they picked a heck of a time to have you go do this, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's good. So you've been
It'll make you stronger.
so you've been doing that for quite a while, Steve. I was seeing you've had a number of deployments overseas and everything like that.
Yes. So I've actually I joined out of high school 80 to 86. I was actually out for 17 years, and then came back after 9/11. I have 5 daughters, and I went to my wife and said, "Honey, what do you think about me joining the reserves? Because they bombed my city. I'm from New York, Puerto Rican from New York City, and my girls weren't going, so I joined up, and I've been in for the last a total of 24 years. The last 18 years as a reservist."
Okay, great. And Steve, you've got you've got a lot of experience in public service too. So you've been pretty politically active. Can you tell us a little bit about that, about your background there?
Sure. So I actually, I've actually been elected 3 times. I served on the Brea City Council from 98 to 2002. I was off for about 12 years and then came back in 2014. And I've been reelected since. So I won in 2014 and then won again in 2018. And this would be my final year on the council. When I'm elected June 7th, I will still be on the council until the end of the year, and just looking forward to continuing to serve.
Okay, great. And you've decided to go after the county supervisor seat, correct?
That is correct. I've done a lot of work in Brea, and as a matter of fact, when I started, generally the council people are I would say more retirement age, and when you are done raising your family and working, you want to continue to serve, so you get involved with civil service or civic service. I actually got involved early on, just because of my work schedule. I worked rotating shift work, and I had different times off, and I got involved, and I just got a passion for it and just kept with it all these years. So actually, when I'm coming towards the end of this city council term, there's no term limits in my city, so I could run again. But I feel like I've done enough in my city that I want to continue on and go on the bigger opportunity as far as service goes, because the work that I'm doing in Brea, and it's not just me, of course, there's 5 members on our council, so it's the entire council that does everything. But I feel like I could do more at the county level and from what I've learned at the local level.
So what's the supervisor environment like up there in Orange County? Because I know it's a little bit challenging for us down here in San Diego County.
Sure.
But what's the landscape like up there? What are you going to be walking into when you're elected?
Sure. Well, let me. First of all, my duty is actually down at Coronado, so I go once a month, and I'm on active duty now since April, down in Coronado at the NAB base down there. So I'm in your neck of the woods all the time. So I'd love to come in to your studio sometime in the near future to give you some more.
Oh, we can definitely arrange that.
Yeah, but let me answer your question. So we currently have 3 positions available, 3 supervisory districts available. The 5th district, which is down southern Orange County, and then we have a new due to districting, the redistricting process. We have a new central Anaheim, Santa Ana district that's heavily skewed towards Democrats. I think it's 36% Republican and non-party preference, and the rest is all Democrats. So it's significant. And then you have my district, which is the 4th district, which is a purple district. It's evenly split. It actually leans Democrat, but it's split as far as how they vote. We're rather conservative up in the 4th district. So that's kind of one of the opportunities that we have, is that with me running against 2 Democrats, there's Sonny Park, the mayor of Buena Park, and then Doug Chafee is the current board chairman. Well, they're beating each other up pretty bad, and it's really quite sad. Some of the pieces that I've seen, I'm glad they're not attacking me, but they're hitting each other pretty bad, and it's leaving me as consolidating the Republican vote in this district that I seem to be going strong.
Well, that's good. What is the makeup right now? Because I'm not familiar with your board up in Orange County. What's the makeup, Republican and Democrat up there?
So we actually have Don Wagner is the 2nd district. He's a solid Republican. Andrew Doe, solid Republican. And then you have Katrina Foley, who's a very liberal Democrat. And then Doug Chafee, of course, who's more of a moderate Democrat. And then the other one is Lisa Bartlett, who's turned out, and she's running for another seat. But that's where we're at right now, is that if I can pull this off and win June 7th, because the 2 Democrats are splitting this seat, we would have a solid Republican majority leading into the November primaries. We guarantee that we have 3 Republicans in that seat. And then if we get, and when we get the 5th district, then that'll give us 4 Republicans, which is solid. And when I say Republicans, this is a nonpartisan position, of course.
Of course.
But some craziness going on in all of politics. And I think that the Republicans have got a better handle on how we can pull ourselves out of it and maintain our area.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a difference in philosophy, I guess, because we have a pretty severe problem down here in San Diego. And it's, you would think that at least they could work together on some things and it wouldn't be quite so split like that. But when you're, down here, it's 3 Democrats to 2 Republicans, and things just get passed, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2 over and over again. I don't know that the system was intended to go that way, but it's certainly like that nowadays. So it sounds like you got a good chance at, at doing something productive up there, which is nice. It's good to hear.
Yes, of course. And well, just being a Republican or even a Democrat does not guarantee you're going to vote right. And as you guys are aware, particularly down in San Diego, I know you're getting impact with the drugs coming over the border and just the migrant crisis that's going on. So I know you guys are getting slammed, but that's all coming north. And what we're trying to do is be a backstop. Particularly, we're squeezing between the very liberal LA politics and then what's going on from San Diego. So we need to hold the line up here and give us some breathing room. Hopefully, inspire you guys in San Diego.
Yeah, and I'm guessing it's pretty bad. So I'm tempted to ask you, what's it like up there in terms of, the politics in your area? Is it reasonably civil, or is it like it? I mean, I know what the answer is, but I was just tempted to ask it anyway. Or is it to the point where it's hard to get anything productive done because of just the I don't know. It seems like the dislike, I guess. Politicians nowadays and people in the country it seems like we're so different or so split. It's hard to get anything really really productive done. You've got to be a really skilled politician, I think, to get anything, good for the people through.
Well, one of the things that I did in Brea, which is kind of really motivated me to go to this next step, is I had the opportunity to be the mayor last year of Brea, one of the most northern Orange County cities. And we got a great community in Brea, very solid. 99% of the votes are 5-0. But I'm that one guy that raises my hand and says, "Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to raise the water rates anymore." For example, and so I've been kind of that guy that sticks his hands up and once in a while and says, "I don't agree with that," or I question certain policies or ways we go about shifting money around. That's one of the things that I'd like to do at the Board of Supervisors as well, is put some fresh eyes on that. My background is business as far as I've worked for Chevron for 20 years and retired just a year and a half ago. Worked for Edison for 7 years. And so I'm more of a, coming from a business perspective or a corporate perspective, I think I can bring a new fresh set of eyes on the way the board does business.
Okay. Hey, Steve, hang in there for a minute. We're going to take a quick break, pay a couple bills, and we'll bring you right back.
Yes, sir.
Hey, when you're looking for jewelry or fine watches, you need to go to San Diego's top jewelry shop, Leo Hamels. Conveniently located in the heart of San Diego, visit Leo's showroom at 1851 San Diego Avenue to see their hand-picked line of new jewelry and watches. And when you buy from Leo Hamel, not only do you get the best deal, you are also supporting the Second Amendment. Support the companies that support the 2A. Call 619-299-1500, or you can visit their showroom on San Diego Avenue and always get awesome service at Leo's. Call 619-299-1500, or you can stop by their showroom at 1851 San Diego Avenue, just off the 5 freeway.
All right, so we're back here with Steve Vargas, who's the Republican candidate for Board of Supervisors up in Orange County. And Steve, this being a gun show, I suppose we got to ask about guns. So what's your experience with guns and firearms and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So I'm certainly qualified. We qualify every 2 years. Actually, have to maintain our quals. So I'm a expert on the pistol and on the M4. I'm a sharpshooter. My crew serve weapon is a Mark 19 mortar fire machine gun, but I haven't fired that in 15 years. So unfortunately, we don't. That's not something that we have to maintain as reservists. That was on active duty. But I have quite a few of my own weapons. My favorite is the 38 Super, the 1911 model, and I actually like that. That's the best, most accurate for me.
All right, you actually took one of our questions. One of our co-hosts here, Action Jackson, who is 9 now, I believe.
Yeah.
So Action was going to ask you that very question about your favorite gun, but you stole it from him.
Yeah.
But you know what? I bet Action Jackson, I'd like to know why that's his favorite gun. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, why is that your favorite gun?
Well, Action Jackson, that was actually my captain when I was first on a submarine, and his name was Captain Jackson. We called him Action Jackson because he took us out to sea 265 days out of 365 one year. So he was a hard charger. But anyway, why is it my favorite gun? It's because it's the most accurate that I have. I like the weight of it. I also qualified on the 45 my first time, and it was also 1911 model. And so I guess I'm just particular to that model and that feel. So I like that the best.
Cool.
All right, well, good. Yeah, Steve, I didn't know you were a submarine guy. I guess.
Now you guys are kindred spirits. So's Joe.
Joe.
Well, yeah, Steve, you're a young man though. You weren't there when I was there, probably.
Well, no. Believe it or not, we have. I'm called a unicorn. That means I went through the enlisted ranks. I've been an E5 3 times. We got busted once or twice, and
we could talk.
I became a chief and then a chief warrant officer, and I was a chief warrant officer 3. And Big Navy, they did away with the warrant officers because I'm a CB, so the other countries, they don't know how to treat us. Are we enlisted or are we officers? Well, a warrant officer is, of course, a commissioned officer, but the other countries don't have them, so they don't know how to treat us. So Big Navy said, well, we're just going to make you a straight lieutenant since you've been a warrant for 4 years. So yeah, I actually I've been through the ringer. So I started in 1980. And like I said, I got out for 17 years. But yeah, I was originally a submariner, machinist mate, and I was a ship's diver. So I was a submarine scuba diver. Submarine has to have three divers on board. So I did that my first tour, and then of course when I came back in after 17 years, I was a general contractor at the time. So the local recruiter was a buddy of mine, and he said, "Hey, we're looking for contractors," and they brought me back in as the E5. So yeah, I've been through I did everything the hard way.
All right, great. Were you on attack boats or boomers?
Yeah, yes, the USS Shark. It was the S class, or it was actually the Scorpion class, but the Scorpion went down. So
okay, they had to change that name. Okay.
Yeah, 591.
All right, very good. Sounds like you were there in my era. So hey, no, I wanted to ask you, just back to the gun thing. Since you're running for office, obviously a politician, elected official, and all that. And as a supervisor, you don't have a lot. I mean, you come into contact with this kind of stuff, but for a lot of gun owners, these things are important for for the elected officials, and people are curious about how you feel about some of these things. And the red flag laws are a big deal down here. We've got somebody running for sheriff right now, unfortunately endorsed by the Republican Party, who's not a real good red flag person here. And I was curious what your thoughts are on the red flag laws.
Right. So, well, first of all, so let me tell you about. So I have my concealed weapons permit in Texas, and so that's good for 38 states. And I'm supporting Don Barnes, who's running unopposed, because I love what he's doing as far as making sure that we can get our concealed weapons permits. And then Todd Spitzer, the DA, he's holding the line as far as making sure that we don't turn to like LA, like Gaston. So he's actually helping us to prosecute criminals. And one of my taglines is for my campaign is that I want to put handcuffs on criminals, not our sheriff's deputies and police officers. And we don't want to end up having all these smash and grabs like LA and others. We had a couple there, and so I want to catch and latch the lawbreakers. And that's where the supervisor's role, as far as supporting these experts that already know how to do their job, like the district attorney and like our sheriffs. I'm not an expert at those things, but that's my role, is to make sure that they have the funding to do their job. As far as the red flag laws, you're talking about, like when if you have a domestic violence or something like that you get flagged.
They're worse than that. It's not so much that somebody's actually done that. It's that somebody might say that, ooh, you might do that, or I think I feel threatened, and that person has guns. It's that kind of thing more.
Yes, or how about if you speak out at a school board meeting, that all of a sudden
you mean a domestic terrorist, that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Right. So those are obviously ridiculous laws and ridiculous proposals put forward by liberals, and that's one of the things why we need to maintain a conservative, I won't say Republican board, I'll say conservative board, because you might have Republicans in there that aren't, not on my board, of course, but on other councils that are not as solid. So we definitely need a conservative board of supervisors, and that's what I'm pushing for.
No, I think that's 100% accurate too, to phrase it that way.
Right.
Because the thing with the red flag laws and just being a supervisor, I mean, obviously, the legislature creates the laws, the governor signs them into effect and everything, and sheriffs and people like that have to enforce them. But even as a supervisor, I mean, the sheriff is an elected office, so they've got a bit of freedom as to how they want to act. And if you've got sheriffs like Chad Bianco or even Alex Villanueva, they could be pretty independent, but still the supervisors control their budgets. They control their funding. The supervisors, have a fair amount of influence, I think, on that stuff, even though they don't write the laws or enforce the laws. And they can influence how things go. So it's good to hear you feel that way.
Yeah, well, if I could expand, I'm sorry, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll talk as long as you'll have me, and I'm certainly willing to come into the studio. But can I give you a little bit more about that kind of aspect?
Yeah, please do.
All right, so and I don't have numbers from me. I'm up here in Washington State, but I know that the sheriff, he's got $899 million budget. The district attorney, I think it's $750 million. Right, well. It's looking into those details of that. I actually interviewed with the Association of Orange County Deputy District Attorneys who endorsed me, and I told them, I said, listen, I know I'm running against the chairman of the board, and so if you can't endorse me, I understand, but if you just stay out of it, that would be a win for me. So I asked them, hey, if you can't endorse me, just stay out of it. I'll be happy. Well, they came back and they said, no, we're going to endorse you because I dug into their budget. And I said, well, here, how about this? You guys are losing, $5 million for your district attorneys, the defense attorneys. And they said, what? Well, that was the proposed budget. And then they got the actual budget. They didn't realize that in the proposed budget, they were going to lose some money. Well, they educated me on that subject because I was just asking them, well, why is this? And they educated me that they need to have good, solid defense attorneys, not to get people off, but just to have efficiency in the courtroom. Because if the prosecutors have to educate the defense attorneys about how to do procedural things because they're the new guy or whatever, or gal, that's taking up time, precious time that they could be getting cases through and being more efficient as prosecutors. So it's both sides of the coin that you have to look at. You can't just look at prosecuting everything and not have good defense because you got to have solid defense people to have an efficient system. And that's one of the things that you got to look at it from both sides and make sure that the funding's there.
Well, it's good. It's encouraging too to hear the your view is the focus on the criminal actually, or on crime, because we're seeing that all across the country, mostly in the cities, but the surge in violent crime. And I thought I'd read that San Diego's violent crime went up like 41% here in the last year or so.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And, the focus, and you use that, or certain people use that as an excuse for more gun control kind of stuff because that's what they want to blame it on. And,
Sure.
It's nice to see somebody focusing, a more conservative, focusing on the criminal because that's the issue. And, something I saw the other day, which I wasn't aware of, it was something that Dr. John Lott just came out with. He just wrote about a study that came out. But most Americans think that firearms are involved in the majority of the violent crime in this country. And it turns out that firearms are involved in about 8% of the violent crimes that take place in this country. And, but yet you see it used as, they beat this gun control drum, I guess, based on that kind of stuff. And people are really misinformed. So I think it's good to see somebody running for office up there that doesn't seem to be that misinformed. So that's good.
Well, no, thank you so much. I appreciate those comments. The smash and grabs, they're not using guns on those.
No.
But how violent are those? Where can you imagine you're walking through the mall with your kids and you're seeing this going on and the people just walking around like they're just taking stuff off the shelves and just. Nobody can stop them because the corporate world is saying, oh, no, it's a liability to get involved. Well, we need to have some more security guards out there, that's for sure. And there's plenty that the private sector can do to have legit security guards that are actually able to keep the weapons.
Hey, Steve, this has been a great interview. We appreciate it. How do people follow you around or reach out or help?
Well, certainly. Vargas for Supervisor, the number 4, Vargas4Supervisor.com is my web address. And then just thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm glad to come in the studio and do more.
Hey, does it take too much time to clean your guns? Well, clean, lube, and protect your guns faster with Seal One. Seal One CLP Plus is natural, non-toxic, and environmentally friendly. You can clean your guns easier and faster. You'll also smell better, too. Something that Mom will appreciate. One and done with Seal One. And ask for it by name at your local gun shop or get some on their website at seal1.com. That's Seal One, the number one, .com. All right, Joe. So what have you been up to? You want to talk about that pepper spray class you took?
Yeah, it's once you talk about pepper spray, it's just pepper spray, It's it was actually no, it was a good class.
Did you have bear? Did you have bear spray too?
We did not have bear spray. We talked about bear spray, but no, it's a good class. I try to take those classes as often as I can, and David Reed up at the Lemon Grove Rod and Gun Club has been really good at bringing in national instructors. We've taken classes from Brian Hill. This guy this week was Chuck Haggard. Mm-hmm. He's had Tatiana Whitlock in there, so he tries to get national instructors to come down and do a class, and he hosts those. So it's been pretty good. So as an instructor, I always like to take classes, especially if I could take classes from other instructors. That's from other national kind of instructors. So it's always good because you could always pick up things in those classes that you can use in these classes. But lots of different things going on. We were going to talk about something in that first segment. We didn't get to it, but there's a couple of senators that have proposed a national licensing scheme. I don't know if you heard about that one for firearms. So they want you to, at the federal level, you would have to apply for a license to buy a gun, and it's three state senators, or actually three senators from New Jersey, two from New Jersey, one from Connecticut. But it's Bob Menendez. That name might be familiar. I think he just barely escaped prison a while ago, and yet he is still the senator there. Cory Booker, you remember Spartacus, right? So Cory Booker, and then Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut. But it's interesting what they're proposing because it's, from what I hear, it's very similar to what they have in New Jersey. And if they were successful with this, when you wanted to buy a firearm, you'd have to apply to the federal government. You would be issued a license to purchase a firearm. The license would be good for one firearm, and you'd have to purchase the firearm within 30 days, I think it said, of getting the license. And again, that's supposed to make us all safer and things like that. But very interesting that they would propose this stuff now. And if you read what Booker says about it, they're taking advantage of the Buffalo shooting like they always do. And, now is the time we need to get more gun control to stop this kind of stuff from, and it's all that same nonsense that they come up with. But it's interesting that they do that. The other thing that the article that I was reading that they were talking about was if they were to pass that, if that were to become law, because of the way it's written, it would effectively raise the age for being able to purchase a firearm to 21. And it's interesting because we just defeated that out here in California for the long guns. And I think Michael was talking about it a week or two ago here. And, so it's interesting that they proposed that. But it's, that stuff just never stops.
Well, it's nothing new.
No, it isn't. It's all the same kind of stuff.
They just wait for the next event, and then they bring it up again. But, they never do anything.
Yeah, well, it's scary too. I think the other thing driving it is, with a little luck, there'll be a big shift in power here in Congress in November.
But stop it just for a second. Mm-hmm. They control the House, they control the Senate, they control the White House, but yet they can't pass any of these bills.
Well, they don't exactly control the Senate. They're close. The Senate members are 50-50 split.
Well, that's true, but I mean, you would think
between Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, you can't depend on it.
Yeah.
But Kamala is the tiebreaker there if they need her in the Senate. But still, I see what you're saying. I mean, they're not getting anything done, and it's
no.
Part of it I think is because of the stuff is so outrageous that even those three don't come across a lot, to support these things.
Right.
But yeah, this one too. Again, it's just it'll be interesting, and I'll talk to our next guest too about this a little bit. Because he's a historian and an expert basically in the Constitution and constitutional law. And it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see when the Supreme Court opinion is going to come out here shortly, probably next week or the week after, because the session's over in June. So they've got to make these announcements here in the next week or two. But the big Second Amendment case that everybody's waiting on, it'll be interesting to see what they actually come out and how they rule. If they rule very narrowly like they do often, or if they rule more widely like hopefully they'll do on this one, and kind of fix these laws, because all these things should be unconstitutional.
They should have been fixed years ago.
Yeah, and that's what happens. And I think now it's been that kind of thing has been overshadowed by the leak with the Roe v. Wade opinion.
Which that was done intentionally.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the intent would have been. I mean,
to stir up all this,
but
animosity.
But they were going to announce that anyway, and I don't know if because on the one hand, maybe they thought that they could
change the mind of the judges.
Exactly, which what they're doing again, and that's another problem that we have in this country now is we don't enforce the laws, or we enforce the laws for one side but not the other.
Right.
And intimidating judges or justices is clearly against federal law.
And nobody's doing anything about it.
No, DOJ won't do a thing about it.
Well, look
They
at the
won't do
border.
anything.
The border's the same thing. There's laws to, the first thing the government and the president is supposed to do is protect us.
Yeah, see, and I think that's what gets us into a very dangerous area as a country, because now if we're blatantly just not going to obey the laws, I mean, where does that
end? Where does
that lead us to? Yeah, because because you could see them now. I mean, all right, the idea might have been to see if you could intimidate one of those justices or two of those justices to change their vote. But even beyond that, now this inciting the violence that's starting to happen here with the and I can't
there's death threats against the judges now.
Oh yeah, and they do that kind of stuff. But again, it's
and they know who's doing it.
Yeah, and I try to be reasonable about it, but I mean, you got to call a spade too when they do this kind of stuff. And it's just when you've got the mayor of Chicago saying that this is a call to arms. If a Republican says something like that, it's the end of the world. And their career is over. But when you've got the media saying, okay, the White House is bracing for possible violence based on the court opinion. And no, you're not bracing for it. You're instigating it.
Yeah.
You're hoping for it.
Exactly.
And, it's just a real dangerous direction for us to be going in.
Well, yeah, it's not getting any better. Let's put it that way. And everybody is watching to see what we're going to do.
Yeah, and it's, and you would think, that's why it was a little bit puzzling with the, with doing this leak, I guess, because they could have waited just for the, for the opinion to come down in June and then try to stir all this up between June and November to try to influence the election a little bit.
They're not the sharpest pencil in the box.
Well, they're sharper than the team that's in second place, that's for sure.
Well, there is something to be said for that. It's when you just can't imagine it getting any crazier, it gets crazier.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing with this gun stuff, like with this licensing scheme. Part of that's to take advantage of the shooting in Buffalo. The other part might be, again, a panic because they may not have that kind of control in Congress in November anymore, after November, so they may not be able to even pass that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting. But like I said, we have Steve Halbrook on here next. That's going to be pretty interesting because that's his area of expertise. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about that.
Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to that interview as well.
So yeah, we'll get to that. The the other thing too we didn't talk about is that has a gun aspect to it was you've heard of the World Health Organization, the treaty that they're trying to push with that.
You're going to get me all fired up, aren't you? Can you even believe that they're going to even consider? Well, I think, didn't Biden already sign it?
I think Tuesday. I think this coming week they're in Sweden or somewhere. And I thought that was the scheme because they're calling it a treaty, but it can't be a real treaty. I thought the Senate had to approve a real treaty.
Well, that's what I thought too. And already states are sending letters and saying,
yeah, I saw that.
I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, because again, the scary thing, they use it again under the guise of a pandemic, right?
Of course.
And that's, the World Health Organization would apparently, if they sign this thing, the idea is they would be able to come in and dictate what we would do in this country based on declaring this pandemic or something. And somebody, I was listening to somebody on the radio the other day, and they were pointing out that the World Health Organization has been calling gun violence a pandemic for years. And so does that mean, can they step in now and say, at the next shooting and say that, okay, it's, it's time for us to do
confiscate all the guns,
confiscation or some other restrictions.
Well, of course. And that way the White House can say, well, it's WHO, it's not us.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference between the two sides. Steve was saying, rather than call it Republican, he was calling it conservative, which I think is a better way to do it. I think that's more accurate. But, you have elitists, I guess, that are mostly on the left who unfortunately control the Democratic Party right now. And, they are more globalist and they are more in alignment with this idea of, you let these world organizations control things.
Well, and guess who controls the WHO?
That's right. Yes, our friends in China.
Yes. China. Well, a lot of companies are so frustrated with their websites. It looks old, it's hard to update, and it's not generating any leads. Well, Sage Tree gets it. Since 2005, Sage Tree has been helping companies with websites that look great, work great, and get leads. Stop being an embarrassment to your website and get one that you're proud to share. Contact Sage Tree today to get a website that makes the phone ring. Getting started is easy. Go to sagetree.com, schedule a call. Go to sagetree.com and press that schedule a call button. All right, Joe, who you get? What's your chatting about today?
So we got a Get a Grip article here. So a new article here. I'll be posting it probably tonight or tomorrow morning, as usual.
As usual.
Writing about a guy named Steve Dettelbach, who is the current nominee to head the ATF from the Biden administration.
Oh, I haven't heard about this guy.
And I didn't either. I saw an article the other day. There's a really good gun writer that writes on Ammo Land named Lee Williams, who I want to try to get on the show here in the next couple of weeks. But he was writing about it, and the Senate hearings are supposed to start either this coming week or the following week. His confirmation hearings. And it was interesting. Started looking at this guy, and obviously he's he's going to be an anti-gun zealot, pretty much like the last one. But you remember the first nominee was David Chipman, and I wrote a couple of articles about it. And David Chipman was just a hardcore anti-Second Amendment zealot,
right?
And but the thing with Chipman, this guy's probably his feelings, toward the Second Amendment and rights and everything are probably similar to Chipman's. But Chipman was a lunatic. He was nutty, and that was one of the big things. Even Romney and Murkowski and Collins wouldn't support him because he had said so many things that were outrageous that he was just nuts.
And he couldn't explain an AR either.
Well, yeah, that was one of many things. And what's nice too about one of the upside to our social media and everything today is that you can find video on everybody saying everything. So, if you have somebody that's prone to these nutty comments and statements and things like that, it's really easy to find it. And so I think that was a lot of what sunk Chipman. This guy, Dettelbach, though, doesn't seem to be that way. He seems to be, again, he's an anti-gun guy. He's supported by every town. And the NRA gave him an F rating for guns. The National Shooting Sports Foundation is vigorously opposed to him. So he's an anti-gun guy, which, again, what you would expect because, the Biden administration's probably the most anti-gun administration we've seen in this country, I think, far more so than Obama was or than Clinton was. Even though they did, we got the AR ban, I think, was during Clinton's term, or terms. But, they're way, I think, over the top here in the, with the Biden administration. So I would expect somebody like that. And it's, it's unfortunate. We'll have to see how the Senate hearings go to see how this guy presents himself because he's supposed to be pretty smooth. He ran for attorney general in Ohio, and he ran unsuccessfully for that out there. But I guess that's when he first got on the radar with the NRA and the National Shooting Sports Foundation and those people. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes here because, like I said, Chipman was just a nut job, so it was easy to get rid of him. This guy, I think, is more dangerous. It's like with criminals. If you see somebody that looks like Charles Manson, That's a little bit easier. It's like, okay, I know what that is. You see somebody that looks like Ted Bundy, that's a little bit different. I think this guy's more along the lines of the Ted Bundy
this guy's not stupid. He's already seen what happened with the last nominee, so he's going to be prepared.
Yeah, and I think Williams mentions that in his article too, because the Biden administration didn't really do a good job in
vetting.
Well, not only that, but laying the foundation and supporting the Chipman nomination. According to Williams, he was saying that the Biden administration just more or less threw him out there and let him sink or swim, and he sunk. This time around, I think they're doing a lot more prep work and seeing what they can do. And it seems like they probably vetted this guy a little bit more. And it's it's unfortunate that you can't even expect to have somebody that's going to head an agency that's supposed to regulate firearms, for the civilian population, ownership and lawful use.
Should be neutral.
You would think, yeah, or at least reasonably neutral. But
just follow the law. We're all entitled to carry and own a weapon. End discussion.
Well, yeah, it should be like that.
Really, if you steal it, or if you break in and rob it, or if you take the serial numbers off, if you do all of the things that laws are already on the books, just follow the laws.
Yeah, and and there's a fair amount of people that would argue that the ATF expends more resources, going after law-abiding citizens than they do going after criminals, and
it's too hard.
you can make a good argument for that, I guess, and especially now, in our environment that we have now, where a lot of federal agencies have been, I don't know if corrupted is the right word, but they've been weaponized. You see them using the FBI to attack political opponents. You see the same thing with the DOJ. That's what we were just talking about a few minutes ago with, these people protesting or intimidating these justices, going to their houses. It's one thing to protest in a park. If you're going to go to somebody's house, though, and be violently screaming and yelling, and DOJ will do nothing.
No.
And, so in that kind of environment, you can see how the person they want to run the ATF, is probably going to be along those lines as well.
Why are cartels still in business?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't, there's plenty of criminals to focus on should they choose to do that.
Yeah, it's almost the cartels are running our country.
Yeah, and we'll have to see how this goes this week or whenever they start these hearings with this guy.
Have you done any background on him yet?
Just a little bit, and just because, like I said, I got to do 600 or 700 words worth background.
You got work to do.
But yeah, from the stuff that I found, his history in Ohio, and I tend to look a lot at who endorses this guy,
right?
Because the other thing, the who is it? The Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, endorses them or him, and again, that's
not good.
No, well, but those aren't rank and file cops.
No, that's what I said. That's not good.
Yeah, usually, it's like when you see the like the Police Chiefs Association and stuff like that. These are all political guys. They go in the direction that the political power is in. So it's not surprising that they're endorsing him. They said there was 140 ex Justice Department employees.
What the heck is that? Oh, people that got fired?
No, apparently people that are still there endorsed him. Well, I guess they left anyway. But
they're not there anymore.
Former employees. But again, those are the kinds of endorsements.
That's a red flag in my book.
Well, yeah, with me too. That's how it shouldn't be a red flag, but it is just based on what you know. What you see from these people. The fact that the NRA gives them an F rating, that's a nice, a good data point.
Yeah.
But the other ones too, the NSSF, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, that's another good organization in terms of looking at it from a gun owner's point of view. They are vigorously opposed. I don't think they have a letter system, but they came out against him way back when he was running for Attorney General and in Ohio, and they're doing the same thing. And this guy apparently supports red flag laws. He supports the AR bans. He supports the bans on standard capacity magazines, and the Everytown USA was very excited about him. So that's kind of the thing that I would base my opinion on anyway. That's where I would look. But So we'll see what happens, though.
Should be interesting. It's
yeah,
another circus.
So, take a look at the article, and it'll be posted tonight or tomorrow morning.
Probably tomorrow morning, folks.
Probably.
Yeah.
So Stephen Halbrook is one of the leading experts on the historical underpinnings of the Second Amendment and practical knowledge in this area of law. Coming up next.
Hey, did you know we have a world-class training school at San Diego Flight Training International? Pilots can fly 360 out of 365 days a year. We're close to the ocean, deserts, and we have mountains too. And we're right next to an international border and a major military base. San Diego is one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly in the heart of San Diego right at Montgomery Field. Getting started is easy. Give them a call at 858-569-1822. You can learn to fly at SDFTI. That's 858-569-1822. If Action Jackson can do it, so can you.
Definitely.
I know you can fly.
Of course.
Just throw you out the window.
There we go.
So who you got?
So we should have Stephen Halbrook here. Stephen, are you online?
I sure am.
Well, Stephen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. You know, it's funny. I was going to, because you've written a number of books, at least 10, I think. And, I've read 2 of them for sure, because, and I'd forgotten about it because, Michael was telling me, yeah, you're going to have Stephen Halbrook on there. And I said, okay, what's he done? And yeah, Michael was saying he wrote one of your favorite books. You were raving about this thing. And I completely forgot about the Founder's Second Amendment. And, I'd gone home and I can't find the thing, and it's bugging me to death because I would never give that book away. I'd have kept that one for a reference. But I did find the other one that I really enjoyed too that I've read was the gun control in Nazi occupied France, which I thought was just really, really interesting, especially given what's going on, in our country and what you see the anti-gun folks doing. And when you read, your book, you covered that so well in there, and it's just it's frightening to see the similarities and how that stuff works.
What's really incredible, quite a parallel, is gun control in Nazi-occupied France and what's going on right now in Ukraine. It's the same kind of issue. Before the Russian attack, most guns were probably unregistered in Ukraine. There's these international gun control organizations that write up how good or bad each country's gun prohibitions are, and gunpolicy.org is the one. And they were lamenting the fact that in Ukraine, most gun owners were undocumented. They actually used the term undocumented. That meant their guns were not registered. And so when the Russian attack came, guess what? Would you rather be an undocumented gun owner or a documented gun owner? Because the first thing they're going to do is go to the police station. Any village they encounter, they're going to find out the gun registration records, the hunting license records also. The same thing in France. They had instituted gun registration in 1935, and lo and behold, in 1940, the Nazis took over, and they used the French police as their helpers. That was the term of the armistice, that the French government would collaborate with their occupation. And so how could it be any better? They had the gun owner records. And the Nazis imposed a rule of if you don't turn in your guns within 24 hours, you get shot. And so how could it be any better for a gun control world? It just doesn't get any better than that.
Well, see, and that's the only real. There is really no legitimate reason to register guns for the government to know that kind of information, other than for confiscation. It's a prerequisite for confiscation. And that's exactly what seems to happen over and over again. And just reading about that, I remember seeing that in your book, and just the fact that you had to turn in your guns by a certain time, or the penalty, I think, was death. I think that's what they were doing. They were shooting people for not turning them in, and even with that as the penalty, there were still apparently a lot of people that weren't turning them in.
Right. That was the impetus for the French resistance. They were able to have some arms, not enough. It was never enough, but they were able to start the resistance movement with some arms that they had refused to register and never got turned in. And the interesting part about the Nazi occupation was that they would shoot people regularly for gun ownership. They would publish it in the newspaper as a warning, and yet these French people kept doing it again. They weren't turning them in. So 3 or 4 times the Nazis would allow a gun turn-in, a period like a week or 10 days when, you can turn your gun in and we won't kill you. And, of course, that led to controversy. They were just shooting people the week before, and now you can just turn it in. It's in the gun amnesty. And there you have it. So in the Ukraine, we had the situation. First, they were under Soviet rule. The Soviet Union broke up. So they inherited the Russian gun ownership policy, which was nobody gets guns unless party members or influential people say you can get them. And so the Ukraine never instituted a gun law. And in fact, and instead, it was a system of favoritism. Unfortunately, Ukraine was known for corruption, and this is one of the other areas where it existed. So if you could convince your friends in the government you could do them favors and they would give you guns, and you could be a gun owner. At any rate, one thing that was positive is you could buy AR-15 rifles, or if you could afford it, or AK-47 or AK-74 rifles. You were allowed actually to buy rifles. You could not buy handguns. The only people who could get handguns were reporters, and they could only fire rubber bullets. They apparently had a number of reporters who were injured or killed. So that leads us up to, let me focus on a couple of years for a second here. In 2013, the Ukrainian Law Review asked me to write a analysis of the Second Amendment. They were publishing a complete edition of the Ukrainian Law Review on the American Bill of Rights. And myself and Joyce Malcolm, we both made contributions on the Second Amendment, and they published it. So there was interest in legal circles in adopting something like the Second Amendment. That was 2013. And in 2014, there was actually a proposal in their parliament for, I would call it the Second Amendment on steroids. It included provisions for mandatory military training, not conscription, but training, a specific right to fight invaders, and then the right to keep and bear arms to protect yourself, your family, your home, your country, to resist tyranny. It had a laundry list of really great ideas. It was an improvement on our own Second Amendment. So that was proposed in the parliament in 2014. Just after that, however, was when the Russians invaded in the eastern part of Ukraine. And so they were distracted. That never got adopted. And then that leads us up to this year. And unfortunately, Zelensky, the prime minister, had been opposed to gun reforms. There's a gun owners association in Ukraine, and they've been trying to push a more liberal regime of gun ownership and recognition of the constitutional right. So then they get invaded. The day before the invasion, Zelensky has a change of heart, and they give out like 25,000 rifles in Kyiv to people who were willing to sign up for the territorial defense. And so they went from like making it hard on gun owners to all of a sudden here, take an AK-74, please help us.
Yeah.
And so you've got, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well, what I was going to ask you was, two things is, what was the situation just prior to the invasion? I mean, in terms of gun ownership in the Ukraine, was it pretty widespread or not so much at all? And then, the second thing is, the government's handing out, these rifles to people. The problem is if you don't own them, you probably don't train with them. And now you're going to go up against trained soldiers with them. I think that's probably a less than optimal situation. What was the situation when they started there?
Well, you're absolutely right about the training issue. And in fact, I had to laugh in the newspaper. It said that this was 2 or 3 days before the invasion actually started. Everybody knew it was coming. They started training people who didn't have training. I mean, that's like a day late and a dollar short for that. I mean, better than nothing. But you probably saw news reports. They're giving guns out and showing people, well, here's how you put a cartridge in the chamber. Here's how the gun operates, and here's how the sights work. So yeah, they were really late on that. But I have seen reports where in areas where the Russians have conquered some of these cities and villages, they do get the registration records, such as they are, and they look the people up, obviously, and they're probably shooting them. It's the same pattern. I mean, that was what the Nazi policy was all over Europe. I focused on occupied France in that book that you mentioned, but that's what's happening. And gee whiz, if I was a gun owner there, I would not want my gun registered. You don't want to be on their blacklist. So, of course, here in our own country, this is a lesson that should be learned. And it's kind of ironic, the anti-gun crowd, everybody, they're all cheering for the Ukrainians. And then when somebody says something about, well, yeah, doesn't that show you something positive about gun ownership and not having registration records and all that? Then they whine and cry and say, oh, you shouldn't be making analogies like that. But it's right on point. Ukraine is an object lesson in why we have the Second Amendment and why we need the Second Amendment.
Yeah, and it is, and along those lines too. Just coming back to our country for a bit, with are you familiar with the bill that the three senators just proposed? I think it was Cory Booker, Menendez, and Blumenthal about a federal kind of licensing scheme for people to buy guns. Right. What are your thoughts on that?
They tried this in 1968, and when the Gun Control Act was being debated. There were about 4 different bills, and just by coincidence, I've read those debates again recently, and they were all defeated. Americans don't go for that. They don't go for federal gun licensing, federal registration. They don't even go for it at the state level. I mean, I know you're in California. I know everybody there has their guns registered just like the government told them to do, like not. I mean, I think, 200,000 might have gotten registered out of millions that were required to be registered. I mean, nobody trusts the government when they want to know about your guns. There's only one purpose for that, just eventually to confiscate them.
Yeah, and that's exactly my thought on that subject. Stephen, can you hang on for the next segment here? We got to cut to a break, and then we'll be back, and we'll pick this back up again.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, buddy, thanks. PRMI Mortgage, PrimeRes.com/Alpine. If you're looking to buy, refi, or maybe you're just considering a reverse mortgage, call our local mortgage guy that you can trust. Call Chris Wiley at PRMI Mortgage. For nearly 25 years, Chris has been helping local San Diegans with all their mortgage needs. They make it easy. Work with a friendly expert team, and they will help you get the best deal on a mortgage. So give Chris a call at 619-722-1303 or PrimeRes.com/Alpine. All right, Joe.
All right, so Stephen, we're back. To leave it off, we were talking about the bill that Booker is proposed there, and you were saying, it's all old hat, really. It's been, that kind of stuff's been defeated before, and it's interesting, because I was reading about that, and what they're proposing. It's funny because they want to have a license. So if I wanted to buy a gun, I've got to go to the federal government for a license. The federal government decides whether or not they're going to give me the license. I have to use the license within 30 days. The license is good for one firearms purchase. And then on top of that, they say the license will expire in 5 years, which I guess I'm thinking that, because that didn't make sense to me, and I'm thinking that's their way of getting around this isn't a registration scheme.
Right. They want to have it expire, hoping that some people will let it expire, then they can confiscate them. And they want to just keep coming at you, making you probably pay a fee to renew it. The District of Columbia tried the same thing. After the Heller case in the Supreme Court, we had a case called Heller 2 and then Heller 3, 2 different more cases, where we challenged other D.C. gun laws. And one of the laws was that every 3 years you had to renew your registration or it would be canceled. And it was just a trap for people who didn't get the notice or were whatever distracted. So we actually got that thrown out by the federal court in the District of Columbia, the appeals court. as not having any kind of basis, considering that the Second Amendment obviously protects the right to keep and bear arms. But I'll tell you one thing: if they want to talk about gun licensing, here's a nice topic. New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. The Supreme Court's going to decide it by the end of June. It's a challenge to the New York State may issue gun licensing.
And that's good. We could roll right into that. That was going to be my next question. So go ahead.
Yeah. And the interesting thing for me was that a week before the Supreme Court said they were going to hear that case, my latest book came out. It's called The Right to Bear Arms, a Constitutional Right of the People or a Privilege of the Ruling Class, ? And the answer is obvious there. I mean, the Second Amendment clearly protects that right. But I think New York and the other 5 states that are may issue, they're going to get it stuck to them. That's your state, New Jersey, Maryland, Hawaii, the usual suspects. It's most likely the court is going to invalidate those kinds of laws. I mean, what other constitutional right do you exist that you have to ask, play Mother May I, ask permission to exercise it, and then they turn you down most of the time? That's the New York scheme. So I know in California, in some places, you can get licenses to carry. Other places, no. It's just up to the local sheriff or police discretion. So, I mean, what kind of constitutional right is that anyway? It's you don't ask permission to, so I have to get permission not to require you to get a search warrant if you want to search my house, or I have to get permission for free speech. I mean, I think we probably have 5 or 6 solid votes to overturn the New York licensing scheme.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that too. I'm curious to see how they, how broadly or how narrowly they rule on that, because really it's time. We're either going to have a Second Amendment, we're going to have a Constitution, or we're not. And, I mean, you could look at all these rules, and I'm not an attorney, but I mean, I look at most of these gun control laws, and I don't see how they don't infringe on my Second Amendment right. So it'll be interesting to see, what do you see as the reactions of states like New Jersey and California, based on the ruling, hopefully, that we're going to get from the Supreme Court?
Well, and once again, this is what I anticipate. It's not a promise. You never know what a court might do. So, but what I anticipate is that they'll simply cross out one phrase in the New York law. It's a phrase that you not only do you have to have no lack of criminal background or maybe some training. You have to have some training, some things like that. But you have to have a proper cause or a good reason to want to carry a gun. That's all the court has to do is cross that out. And then you can go on your merry way. If you meet all the other requirements, then you can get the carry license. And it's going to be the same in the other states. New Jersey, whatever their equivalent phrase is to good reason or proper purpose or whatever, just cross that out. It's not like the gun control laws that exist are going to all of a sudden vanish. It's just that you cut out that part that's the most unconstitutional and then allow people to get carry permits. Now, we know that half the states, or maybe it's 23 states now. Well, let's see. It's
I think it's up to 25, the constitutional carry?
Yeah, 26 I think it might be, or 25 at least. It's constitutional carry, no permit or license required. And then all the states except for 6 have either that and or a permit system that's by and large pretty much fair in the sense that everybody who lacks a felony record and, mental problems, things like that, you can get the permit to carry. So that's the baseline of what we're asking for. And we'll see. It's going to be by the end of June. And there's another big case that people are getting upset about. I think that some people are going to get upset about that one, the woke people, and let them get upset.
Do you? And that's, on that subject too, do you think the the fuss about this leak on the Roe opinion, do you think that's going to have any impact at all on the Second Amendment opinion?
No, I don't think so. I mean, these justices have pretty tough skin. they're not going to back down because people are going out to their houses and trying to intimidate them. They're not that type. They're going to stick with their guns, so to speak. I'm certain that there's an opinion, just like in the Roe versus Wade case. There's an opinion already drafted, and it's being circulated. And the way it works up there, for these controversial cases, maybe 2, 3, even 3 months in advance, they might have a basic draft, and then that allows every justice to have their say. If somebody wants to, if one person writes the majority opinion, let's say Justice Thomas, but Justice Gorsuch wants to add some to it in a concurrent opinion, it gives them time to do that. And if Justice Sotomayor wants to write a dissenting opinion, or Justice Kagan, they get plenty of time to give it their best shot to make it as most refined as possible. That's why they put these big cases off to the end, so that all the justices can elaborate to their heart's extent in terms of what they want to get their 2 bits into the decision. So, I don't think neither case is going to be involved with the other in terms of, influencing it. But one thing that's so critical and such a difference, many people denied for years, and some people still deny, the Second Amendment does not protect the right of the people to keep and bear arms. It protects the National Guard. But versus Roe versus Wade, the right to abortion is clearly in the Constitution. I mean, here you have one right that's explicit that they try to deny, and then you have another so-called right that they make up, basically. So we'll see what happens with both of those. But, if you're a betting person, I think your money would be best directed to 2 different possible outcomes in those cases.
Well, I think it's ironic, too, living in a May issue state, because we just recently, probably the last 5 or 6 years, got our concealed carry rights back in San Diego. And that was due mostly to our group, the San Diego County gun owners, pressuring the sheriff to change his policy out here. And, it's interesting, and I think I may have read this in your book, actually, just the history of that May issue law, or that idea, goes way back to the Civil War, basically, and as a way to keep certain people unarmed. And, and that's how it's always been used, actually, really up until nowadays by certain governments in our country, I guess. And it's ironic that some people argue to continue that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's an issue I've covered in the latest book, The Right to Bear Arms, and also a book called Securing Civil Rights. In the Old South, in the slave codes, slaves could not have a gun, but a free person of color, so-called, could get a license, and it was May issue, so it was up to their discretion of the authorities. Then after the war, the black codes were enacted, and so any African American who wanted to carry a gun or to even have one would have to get a license. There was no standard for it. The local authority would either give them the license or not.
Yeah, and that's and that's what we have in California too. We have 58 counties, and it's up to the county, usually the sheriff, to do that. It's exactly where that comes from, that history.
Right, and that was never applied to citizens. Unfortunately, black people were not considered citizens. They were made citizens by the 14th Amendment, adopted in 1868. But you don't treat citizens that way, and the reason given for the excuse given for having that kind of licensing system was they're not really citizens. And so after they were made citizens, recognized as citizens, African Americans had all the rights as everybody else. And yet you still had, in the Jim Crow era, you have licensing laws that were discretionary, and so the authorities would determine who got a license and who didn't. And of course, New York, the Sullivan Law, 1911, that was aimed at Italian immigrants. There was a lot of ethnic prejudice against them, and you had the Irish bosses led by Big Tim Sullivan in New York City who wanted to monopolize political power. They swayed elections. They enforced the law in a very unequal way. They made pretense after the law passed. They made pretense gun seizures where they would plant a gun in your pocket And so all the way up to nowadays, you have in the New York City licensing section, you have the police who administer it being charged with corruption and bribery to issue licenses.
All right. Hey, man, great interview. Thank you very, very much. Look forward to having you back on down the road.
All right, guys. Good to talk to you again. Take care.
Hey, we live in a time where the mainstream media and politicians are trying to eliminate your ability to defend yourself. California gun rosters only stop you, the law-abiding gun owner, from having the newest, safest, and most reliable handguns. The assault weapons ban only stops you, the law-abiding gun owner, from having the most popular, easy-to-use rifles to protect yourself and your loved ones. The high-capacity mag ban only limits you, the law-abiding gun owner, from having more than 10 rounds. Criminals and the government don't have that limit. Help us restore and defend the Second Amendment. Hit the like and subscribe button and share the show with as many friends as you can. All right. We're going to stump our nephew. I just thought I'd call him our nephew since he's kind of all of ours. Right, Sam?
I'm honored that you see me that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's face it. We've been doing this for how long? It's crazy.
A while now, some like 3, almost 4 years maybe.
God, can you
All
believe?
right.
Yeah,
So-
can you believe that?
So how are you, nephew?
Yeah,
Guys,
doing good. You got some crazy weather going on back there, right?
we have weather. Not really crazy by our standards, but it is raining, so I guess that's crazy by Southern California standards maybe.
Yeah, we don't really.
We
know.
used to have that.
We used to have that back in the day. So Action Jackson's got the question for you. Are you ready, Freddie?
I guess so.
Always.
All right, let her rip, Tater Chip.
Gene from Hummel asks, how is the first supersonic airplane, the Bell X-1, related to guns?
That was Gene from where? Hummel?
Hamua, actually, and that's a real city, believe it or not.
Not really a city. But
Well, it's a hole in the wall. To all the Hamua lovers out there.
it's a town.
Well, thanks very much for writing in, Gene. That's a really interesting question. A lot of you probably don't know the relationship between the Bell X-1, the first supersonic aircraft, and specifically ammunition design, but I was going to say firearms design. Now, it wasn't the first man-made object to break the sound barrier. Contrary to what some uninformed people think, bullets had been traveling faster than the speed of sound for many decades before the first supersonic flight in 1947. And so when designing the aircraft, the engineers at Bell Aircraft designed it with a similar aerodynamic profile to a bullet from the 50 BMG cartridge. They designed it basically according to a scaled-up 50 BMG round so that the nose of the airplane would be very aerodynamic.
Ta-da! The answer is the shape of the first supersonic airplane, the Bell X-1, was based on the Browning 50 caliber machine gun bullet, which was known to be stable in supersonic flight.
Correct!
Very good. Very good.
There you go.
Okay, since you're not old enough to remember 1940, whatever it was, who was the pilot?
Chuck Yeager.
Yeah. He's right again.
He thought he could trick you there.
I
huh?
know, I tried. But I knew he already knew it, because if he knew that much about, the plane.
The next thing would have been simple.
Yeah, he would have had to know who the pilot was. All right. Cool.
So that was good, actually. So Sam, in the Sam scale of like 1 to 10, where did that question fall in terms of difficulty?
Is 10 difficult and 1 easy?
Yeah, it's your scale. You can
Yeah,
define
you
it how you want.
Go anywhere you want.
I don't know. In terms of difficulty, that one was relatively low. But then again, a lot of them, like it's either you know the answer or you don't.
Right.
But if you want me to rank it in terms of obscurity, I would say probably maybe a 6 or 7. I would say probably about a 6. It's relatively obscure.
So that was so guys that read up a lot on ammunition, reloaders, and things like that, are people like that more likely to have come across that little tidbit of knowledge?
No, you're more likely to know it if you study aviation.
Right.
If you're a gun guy, a ballistics guy.
Okay, that's where you picked it up then with your pilot stuff?
Yeah.
See, and I have a model of the X-1 along with the B-17 and a bunch of other vintage planes. So I knew that. And, that wouldn't be something I would normally know, except that I got it from the aviation side.
Well, there you go.
The only thing I wasn't aware of is that there were bullets way before that went supersonic before the X-1.
Oh, yeah, we've been pushing bullets faster than the sound for a long time.
So you being a pilot, can you imagine if somebody walked up to you and said, all right, Sam, here's what I need you to do. I need you to get into this plane. We're going to drop you off the bottom of another plane, and let's see if you can break the sound barrier. Would you do that?
Well, yeah, assuming I had the proper...
Well, sure. Yeah.
Thing, but really, I'm just guessing here, but I think the scary part of that whole endeavor wasn't so much we're going to fly fast, because people had been approaching the sound barrier for a few years. I think probably the scary part was that the airplane was powered by a liquid-fueled rocket engine, and that technology was really not very mature at the time. They were not reliable, and they were definitely not very safe.
And what about landing? Because when you look at the plane, the landing might be a challenge.
Yeah, the visibility. If
any.
if I get the correct impression based on looking at the airplane, the visibility probably wasn't all that great when landing. And of course, once your rocket fuel burns out, it's a glider, so you'd better hope you're flying over a dry lake bed, which they were.
Yeah. Now it's pretty amazing when you look at the technology, of where they, how, a lot of this stuff. I was just finished reading a book about water speed records, and the very first water speed record was 23 miles an hour. And they just thought that was absolutely the wildest experience ever. Today it's 228, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, I digress. So it's good talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, as always. Kind of a fun question, a little bit off the wall.
Yeah.
Thing that a lot of gun guys probably don't know, but it's a little more well known in the aviation community.
Right, and there's no airports in Humul, so that was a good question. All right, buddy. Say hi to the family.
Will do. You guys have a good night.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
All right. So, Action Jackson. What? So you met Flash Gordon?
Yeah, his real name.
You met his real Flash Gordon? The one from 1947?
What his real name is Sam Jones.
Oh, now you ruined it. Were you supposed to tell anybody that? That was okay?
Yeah.
Did he have a ray gun?
Assuming.
Yeah, I have one. I used to watch Flash Gordon back in the day on black and white.
That was when they had aviation.
And they used to hang the airplane. They used to hang his rocket.
The exhaust went straight up.
Yeah, of course it did. So where'd you meet him at?
A Glock store.
What was he doing there? Shooting?
Yeah,
Practicing?
He was doing a class with Little DC.
That's right. It's one of DC's buddies.
Oh, because Flash Gordon has to be on top of it, if he's going to be a protector.
Yeah.
I get you. Did you get his autograph? Or did you give him yours?
Neither, but I gave him a sticker,
Yeah.
a coin, 2 patches, and I think a business card.
What'd he give you?
Nothing. I don't really.
The time to meet Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
That's what you get.
But see, he doesn't need any more stuff. I've seen his wall of fame. Right?
Yeah,
You've got a little bit more than you need, right? And you're only how old? 9?
9.
Wait till you're 99. There will be not an inch of that house not covered. Right?
Nope.
All right. Sounds like a plan. So who's your next superstar you're going to meet. Oh, I met somebody that knows Dennis Anderson personally.
You mean one of the many people who drives Gravedigger?
This is the man. He's the one that built Gravedigger. So I'm working on some things, so we'll see what comes together. Yeah, you and I'll go check this dude out. You're not old enough to drive, and I'm too old to drive, but we're going to work out something. We'll get in the middle somehow, right?
If there even is a middle.
Well, probably not now that you mention it, but we'll see if we can't pull that together. Because I know you'd like to get in a Gravedigger and go for a ride, right?
Absolutely.
I'll be driving. You'll be riding. You'll be riding shotgun. How's that? No?
Great.
Yeah. You don't care if we go upside down?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That would be the best part. Get a box of Band-Aids. We'll have a great time. Man after my own heart, I digress.
Or you could drive Gravedigger and I can drive a Son of a Digger.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, but yeah, that would work. Son of a Digger is probably more your style anyway. You kind of like Jeeps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of a 54 Chevy panel truck guy myself. Did you know, trivia, you may not know this. So next time you're at a cocktail party, this will be a good one to pull off on the guys. Do you know that Gravedigger's, the paint job on the side of his big truck? That's all done by hand. Where Son of a Digger and all the rest of them, they wrap them. They use the vinyl wrap.
Yeah.
Gravedigger, there's an old guy that's back in Kill Devil, North Carolina, that hand paints that whole truck. Pretty cool, huh? See? Next time you're at a cocktail party. All right, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. Joe Germisi, you did a phenomenal job as usual. Folks, check out our sponsors, San Diego County Gun Owners, Orange County, Inland Empire, the Dillon Law Group, PRMI Mortgage.